In this video, we're going to dive into the first section of the Arizona purchase contract. So let's go. Okay, in the last video, we went through page 0 of the contract. So if you haven't seen that video, make sure and go watch that one before you come to this one. But this is kind of the actual beginning of the contract itself. And this is going to be about section 1 here. So the first area we have is, most of this is kind of general stuff, pretty self-explanatory, but there are a few things in section 1 that you will want to look at. Obviously we got the buyer, we have Bill buyer here, Joe seller, and you can either type this in, have this typed in here and uncheck that, or sometimes it'll be checked and this will be blank. This was just an address. I pulled up one of my old listings that closed. But just to give you an idea of how this would look, this is how it looks with the legal description and all this. This is all directly imported from the MLS. Line 10, this is section 1C here. This is where it's pertinent to buyers and, of course, agents, trying to fill this out for them. Section 1C is the actual purchase price of the offer. It's not necessarily the list price, but this is what we are offering for the purchase of the property. Earnest money, typically 1%. It's kind of the standard, and you can apply that to different things. This case, it's to the closing costs. We put in next as a down payment, and then we have the loan amount if we're using a loan. If we're not, then this line here would just be $500,000, cash. That's all it would say. Pretty simple. But this section, we just need to make sure our math is good. Obviously 500 minus, sorry, this should be 100. My bad. Speaking of math, 500 minus 100 is 400. So that math should all add up. Moving down to the earnest money line, line number 17. This can be done either personal check or wire transfer. And for people moving in from out of state, obviously we want to probably do a wire transfer to get that earnest money deposited within 1 business day of offer acceptance. So right here it talks about the earnest money and where it will be deposited, either in a broker's trust account or escrow account. 99% of the time we're going to be dealing with an escrow company to handle this transaction and hold the monies. So we're going to have that box checked. Close of escrow, standard 30-day to 40-day close. Nothing new here. Just that's the date you guys pick that you're going to want to close on. So that's dictated by the buyer. The buyer gets to put that in their offer, and that is a negotiating piece that that will be done with the seller. Some sellers want to close early. Some sellers, especially in a fast-moving market like we are in 2022, some sellers will want to close later to give them time to buy a new house, for example. So that is a date that you're going to write in there, and it is a negotiating piece and something to consider when being as competitive as possible for placing the offers, depending on what the sellers want and the market. Close of escrow, obviously next day both open for business. This is some legal jargon here. Buyer acknowledges failure to pay the required funds at closing. If not cured with a cure notice, is breach of the contract, and they will lose their earnest money subject to forfeiture. So basically, you got to have the money, or that all the money that's due at close. And if you fail to do so, you're in breach of the contract, and the sellers can take your earnest money. So possession, and this is where we kind of get into some stuff that's kind of pertinent, especially for somebody coming in from out of state. This may be different than wherever you're from. So possession, seller delivers possession, keys, and everything else, including all the stuff at COE. Or that's if you have a different agreement where you could actually write something in there, and maybe you want to take possession early as a buyer or later if the seller wants to hold on to it for a little bit more. Both of those situations are a little sticky, not recommended. Typically don't do that. Usually you take possession at closing, once the funds have been deposited and the deed has been transferred over to the buyer's name. So addendums, these are just any addendums that could be incorporated with the property. For example, I checked HOA, pretty standard. Buyer contingency, this is, if your offer is contingent upon the sale of your home, that one's used. So there's several here, but we're not going to dive into that. These are all topics for other videos. But I do want to get here down to this section 1G, fixtures and personal property. So I'm going to leave this screen up for a second, maybe even zoom in on it for you, so you can actually read this. Especially again, if you're not from Arizona and not familiar with the contract. This whole thing lines out all the stuff that's included with the property. And I'm just going to give you the quick and dirty of this. It talks about being affixed, right? Something that's affixed, like this word here. So anything that's basically nailed or attached to the actual building stays. So a quick example here would be a wall-mounted TV. And this has actually been a court case that was brought up in Arizona court. So what's included is, does the TV stay with the property or does the TV go? And it was determined that the actual mounting bracket for the television, the actual mounting bracket for the television was to stay because it was attached. However, the actual TV that you could just pull off the mount was not included in the sale of the property. So that's how it kind of got defined. Same thing happens with like curtains and draperies. The curtain rods are the brackets that are mounted to the wall that are attached, stay, and then obviously the curtains themselves, would go. And that's, of course, if it's not negotiated or worked out between the buyer and seller some other way. But that's just how things are written in the contract. Ceiling fans, attached, they stay. Washer and dryer, and that's the next lines here, which we're going to get back down into the contract down here. Additional personal property, fridge, washer, dryer. Those are common things that are included with the sale of the property. However, if you want them, if you see them in the property when you see the house or via video or whatever, or the pictures, if they're advertised in the pictures, or if you see them at the house, then you can ask for them as part of the deal. Everything else basically in the property that's a personal item needs to be done in a separate bill of sale. So not included with the purchase contract. Those are kind of the only things along with the stuff that's listed above here. So you can see other personal property. You can write in a couple items, but if sometimes people leave like the whole house, and that's going to be a separate bill of sale. They'll say, okay, well, for another $2,000, we'll give you all of the furniture, for example. And then that would be a bill of sale that would be written up by your agent and handled by the escrow as well. And everything would be done at closing. It's just a separate deal outside of the contract. So that's pretty much it. One other thing, again, right here, this is 63 and 64. Additional personal property, not included in the part of the premises and shall be transferred with no monetary value, free and clear of liens and encumbrances. So that's different stuff. So it basically says, if they leave it there at closing, you get it. So they should have everything else out of there though. And of course, leased items shall not be included in the sale. So that wraps it up for section 1 of the Arizona purchase contract. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. And what you're going to want to do next is go ahead and make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel so you can see all the videos in this series. And then just simply move on and watch the next video where we dive into section 2 of the Arizona purchase contract. Thanks for watching.